The first time I lied to my followers, I told myself it was harmless, but even then my chest tightened like I had swallowed glass. Emily said, it was just one comment section, just a few paid words to spark the illusion of love. I told myself it wasn't deception, just survival in a world where silence is death. Every fake heart, every purchased phrase became proof that I mattered, that I wasn't invisible. But Mark said, Emily, you're selling pieces of yourself to strangers who don't even know your name. I laughed it off, though my throat felt raw, because truth was too heavy to carry then. I stared into the ring light, my own reflection glaring back, a stranger wrapped in gloss. Sarah whispered, "At least you're not alone anymore," though I knew she envied the ghost I created. And the crowd roared in numbers, but their voices were hollow, their affection only rented. I couldn't hear myself anymore. Only the echo of fabricated cheers. My empire was born not in truth, but in a lie I paid to make real, and that single moment cracked me open forever. Emily said, I told myself the first purchase was harmless, but inside I knew it was the birth of rot. The silence of no comments was louder than any insult. Mark said, you could have waited, built slowly, honestly. His voice shook, but I turned away. Sarah whispered, at least people see you now, though her tone dripped with longing. My chest felt hollow, filled only by rented validation. I leaned closer to the screen, letting the glow consume me. The ghost of who I once was pulled at me, whispering through every empty tap of likes. I thought buying words would fill the silence, but it only deepened the emptiness. Emily said, they follow her, not me. My reflection in the ring light smirked back, hollow. Mark muttered, you're slipping further, his voice almost breaking. Sarah sighed, maybe you'll finally feel alive, though her jealousy was plain. My heart beat against a hollow empire built on ghosts. Emily said, every fake comment was a rope pulling me deeper. I remembered the silence before fame, the way it felt like drowning in invisibility. Mark warned, it won't stop here, but I ignored him. Sarah whispered, at least you're seen, though her tone twisted sharp. The ghost of my past pressed close, reminding me that I was never enough, not even for myself. The mask became tighter with each post. Emily said, I thought I could control it, but control was an illusion slipping through my hands. Mark's eyes burned with pity, but he stayed silent. Sarah muttered, better false love than none, and the words sliced deep. I stared into the digital crowd, faceless and merciless, and wondered if the real me had already died. When the lights faded, I found myself staring into the dark, asking if any of this was real. Emily said, they love her, not me, as her hand hovered over her phone like it burned. Mark's voice trembled. You're chasing ghosts and calling them friends, his words dripping pity I could not accept. Sarah whispered, at least the ghosts answer back, her smile sharp, her eyes hollow. The silence between us grew thicker than smoke, pressing on every breath I tried to take. My chest carried the weight of 1,000 borrowed hearts, yet none of them beat for me. My reflection was my only companion, a stranger who smirked in approval of my lies. I wanted to scream, but the sound got caught, swallowed by the hum of electronics. I kept scrolling, desperate to drown in their artificial affection. Each comment felt like a rope around my neck, both lifting me and tightening. The hollowness grew louder than any crowd. Emily said, I thought fame would make me whole, but it carved me empty instead. Mark muttered, you've mistaken noise for love. His arms crossed like he was holding himself back from shaking me. Sarah leaned closer and said, better emptiness with attention than silence with nothing. I closed my eyes, but even then, the ring light etched its afterglow against my lids. I couldn't feel the ground anymore, only the floating illusion of endless scrolling. Every like was a reminder that the real me was forgotten. I watched my hands tremble, foreign, as though they belonged to someone else. Inside, the ghost whispered truths too cruel to bear, reminding me of the girl I abandoned to become this lie. Emily said, they don't follow me. They follow the mask. I felt the words tear out of me, jagged and raw. Mark exhaled hard. Then take it off before it consumes you. Sarah whispered, but without it, who are you? And her question stabbed deeper than any insult. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, unable to decide whether to type or to vanish. The silence in the room was thicker than any sound, the hum of screens like static against my skull. I thought of the girl I once was, invisible and ordinary, and wondered if she was already gone. Each click was a nail sealing me inside a coffin built from plastic affection. "Ah," Emily said, "I feel lonelier surrounded by millions than I ever did alone." The confession cracked in my throat, fragile but final. Mark rubbed his temples and muttered, "You're chasing a fire that only burns you." Sarah whispered, "At least fire keeps you warm," though her voice quivered with envy. My chest ached as I scrolled through adoration that never touched me, never knew me. I pressed my forehead against the screen, the cold glass mocking me with my own reflection. The crowd cheered in numbers, but their voices were ghosts that evaporated into nothing. The loneliness pulsed sharper, louder, a wound that refused to heal. The mask became everything I had, everything I hated. Emily said, "I don't know if they love me or the lie." My voice cracked and echoed through the room. Mark said, "If you can't tell the difference, maybe there is none left." His words crushed me with their weight. Sarah's whisper lingered, "Then keep being the lie. At least it's something." I wanted to scream, to rip the filters and paid comments from the screen, but my fingers only shook harder. The ghost inside me whispered, reminding me that the girl I once was had already died the moment I bought my first illusion. My chest hollowed, heavy and endless, as though nothing real remained. The more I lied, the more lies demanded to follow. Emily said, "Every fake word I bought needed another to cover the silence." Mark groaned, "You're building a tower that will collapse on you." Sarah smirked, "At least the tower shines bright before it falls." My chest rattled with the weight of secrets I could never share. The fans cheered louder, blind to the cracks beneath their idol. My fingers typed apologies I never posted, backspacing until nothing remained. I pressed my head into my hands, my mind swirling with debts I could never repay. The ghost inside whispered, "You've buried me too deep to be found again." The room trembled with tension, every screen reflecting my undoing. The brands arrived like vultures, circling my growing lie. Emily said, "They don't see me, they see numbers." Mark spat, "And numbers can be bought until they devour you." Sarah whispered, "Better to be devoured than ignored," her voice sharp as glass. I signed deals with trembling hands, selling pieces of myself with every signature. The contract smelled of ink and betrayal, a reminder that I was only a product. The crowd clapped, but their voices echoed hollow in my chest. I wondered if they would cheer the day I crumbled. The ghost within me whispered, "They'll cheer louder then." Each brand deal chained me tighter. Emily said, "I thought I was free, but I'm just a puppet on strings of money." Mark warned, "They'll bleed you dry until nothing is left." Sarah muttered, "At least the world will finally see you," her jealousy trembling beneath her words. My smile grew faker with every photo I posed for, teeth clenched behind forced perfection. The comments poured in like venom disguised as honey. My heart raced, not with joy, but with dread. The ghost whispered, "You've sold me for applause that doesn't belong to you." The mask glued itself to my face, unbreakable. Emily said, "Every DM I sent feels like another thread, unraveling." I typed replies I didn't mean, my fingers numb. Mark muttered, "You're feeding them lies and they'll choke you with them." Sarah whispered, "But at least they keep asking for more." The fans demanded perfection, claws hidden behind emojis. I delivered smiles like currency, each one cutting deeper into me. The ghost hissed, "You're drowning in their hunger." My chest burned, every notification another stone dragging me down. The love they gave was never for me, only the mask. I was invisible, even in the spotlight. The unraveling spread faster than I could contain it. Emily said, "Every lie pulls another loose." My empire quaked beneath me, cracks spreading like lightning through glass. Mark shouted, "Stop before it all collapses." His voice cracked, desperate. Sarah muttered, "Let it collapse, maybe then you'll finally be free." I trembled, staring at the screen where my numbers grew but my soul shrank. The ghost whispered, "It's already too late." My reflection fractured in the monitor, showing a stranger in my skin. The weight of their love felt heavier than hate, crushing me. My empire was already dust. The betrayal came not from strangers, but from the ones closest. Emily said, "I thought you were my anchor." Mark's voice cracked. "I told them everything because you wouldn't stop yourself." My chest froze, every word slicing like glass. Sarah's smirk broke into a cruel grin. "The world deserves to see the truth you buried." My empire, already cracking, shattered in one confession. I wanted to scream, but no sound left me. The ghost inside whispered, "You trusted the wrong ones and now they're holding the knife." My reflection blurred in tears, drowning in their betrayal. The crowd roared louder, their applause laced with bloodlust. I wasn't falling by accident, I was being pushed. Emily said, "You sold me out." My voice shook like a cracked mirror. Mark whispered, "I thought I was saving you." His guilt was heavy, but the damage was done. Sarah leaned in. It wasn't just him. I gave them everything they wanted. The weight of her words crushed me flat. I felt the air leave my lungs as the truth unraveled. The ghost hissed, "You built this cage and handed them the key." My empire wasn't stolen by strangers, but by those who swore loyalty. I could hear the crowd outside the screen, chanting louder than my heartbeat. Their hunger for my ruin became unstoppable. Every message, every screenshot, every secret poured into the public. Emily said, "They'll rip me apart." Mark whispered, "I never thought it would go this far." Sarah muttered, "You wanted fame. Now you'll drown in it." My phone lit up like wildfire, each buzz another blade cutting deeper. The ghost whispered, "This is what you bought. A crown of thorns." My reflection in the dark glass was fractured, showing me as monster and victim both. The crowd turned savage, their love shifting to venom with every passing second. I wasn't adored anymore. I was devoured. Emily said, "I thought you loved me." My words cracked into the silence, bleeding out into the void. Mark whispered, "I did. That's why I told them, because I couldn't watch you burn alone." Sarah's voice was cold, "Love? No, I envied you, and envy always demands payment." My chest collapsed under the truth. I realized I was nothing more than a mask to them too. The ghost whispered, "You are surrounded, but you were never seen." The crowd's roar became thunder, shaking the foundation of the empire I had built. I wasn't just betrayed. I was exposed. The twist was crueler than I imagined. Emily said, "The person they loved never existed." My voice trembled, hollow yet sharp. Mark whispered, "I gave them the ghost you built, not the girl I knew." Sarah smirked, "And they loved the ghost more than they ever loved you." My chest burned as I realized my empire was made of smoke, and now the wind had scattered it. The ghost inside whispered, "At last, they see me." But it's too late. The crowd feasted on my downfall, their hunger insatiable. I was no longer an influencer. I was a spectacle, stripped bare, undone. The storm broke in full force. Emily said, "The cancellation didn't break me. The silence did." My voice cracked into a scream that nobody heard. Mark shouted, "Stop before you disappear completely," but his words were drowned in the digital roar. Sarah whispered coldly, "They've moved on, Emily. You were never theirs to keep." The crowd had turned into a mob, their voices like knives carving away at what little was left of me. The ghost whispered, "You are ashes pretending to be flame." My hands shook as I stared at the endless flood of comments. Love turned to venom in seconds. My empire didn't collapse quietly, it exploded, tearing me with it. Emily said, "I'm nothing but their entertainment." My words bled like wounds. Mark's eyes widened. You can still walk away, but not like this. His plea cracked under the weight of despair. Sarah's whisper was venom. They don't want you healed. They want you broken. The crowd's chants thundered in my skull, drowning out reason, drowning out hope. The ghost hissed, "Let it consume you. At least you'll feel something." I slammed my fists on the desk, the sound echoing like gunfire. The ring light glared at me like a merciless eye. I was surrounded, cornered, and every path out led straight into fire. The noise became unbearable, a storm I could not escape. Emily said, "They don't care if I live or die." Mark shouted, "Don't say that." His voice cracked like it was breaking him in half. Sarah's cold whisper twisted finally, "You see, the truth." The ghost whispered louder, "You were never alive to them, only a mask." My chest heaved, every breath a fight. My reflection in the monitor was distorted, my own face unrecognizable. I tore at the screen, as though ripping it down would silence the crowd. But the voices followed, endless and merciless. My empire wasn't a kingdom anymore. It was an execution stage. Emily said, "I don't know who I am anymore." The words were hollow, lost in the chaos. Mark whispered, "You're still Emily. Please don't let them erase you." His voice was raw, but hope lingered in his eyes. Sarah snapped, "She's already gone. All that's left is the ghost." Ghost whispered, "I've always been here. You buried me, but I waited." My chest ached as though split in two. The crowd screamed louder, demanding more blood, more collapse. My empire collapsed brick by brick, each lie exploding in my face. My screams melted into silence. The silence was worse than death. The climax tore me apart. Emily said, "The empire didn't kill me. The silence did." My voice trembled with finality. Mark whispered, "You're stronger than this," though his tone betrayed hopelessness. Sarah muttered, "No, she's exactly where she belongs." The ghost spoke louder than them all. "Now they see me, not you, never you." My reflection fractured completely, the mask torn away to reveal nothing underneath. The crowd screamed for my ruin, their chants echoing into eternity. I collapsed into the glow of 1,000 rented lies, knowing I had lost everything. My kingdom of numbers ended in silence, and silence is the cruelest death. The noise finally ended, and the quiet felt heavier than screams. Emily said, "I thought fame would make me whole, but it stripped me until nothing remained." My voice was low, shaking as though it feared being heard. Mark whispered, "You're still here, Emily, burned but alive." His tone carried exhaustion, but also desperate sincerity. Sarah muttered, "Alive maybe, but not who she once was," her voice dripping with contempt, though her eyes faltered. The ghost whispered, "Now you can finally face me. You buried me under filters, but I never died." My chest rose in a long breath, the first that didn't taste of poison. I looked around the wreckage of screens, papers, shadows, and for once didn't see an empire. I saw a girl, broken but breathing. The silence no longer felt like suffocation, but like a doorway. Emily said, "The lies are over." My voice carried cracks, but the cracks made it real. Mark whispered, "Then let truth hold you, not them," his hands trembling at his sides. Sarah snapped, "Truth won't save you," her words sharp, but her eyes revealed a flicker of unease. The ghost whispered, "Truth is all you've ever had. You abandoned me, but I waited." My chest felt lighter, though scarred by everything I had built and lost. I could feel the mask dissolving, leaving my face bare to the silence. For the first time, silence didn't mean erasure. Silence meant survival. Emily said, "I thought silence was death, but maybe silence is freedom." The words left my mouth with a fragile steadiness I hadn't felt before. Mark whispered, "Then rebuild, not as the mask, but as you," his tone fragile but hopeful. Sarah muttered, "You can't erase what you've done," her voice sharp but weaker, envy cracking into fear. The ghost whispered, "You can't erase me either, but you can accept me." My hands trembled, not from fear, but from release. The screens lay dead, powerless. For the first time, I did not mourn their silence. I embraced it. My chest felt light, not with love from strangers, but with the unfamiliar weight of my own breath. Emily said, "I don't want to be remembered. I just want to be real." My voice was raw, but the truth inside it steadied me. Mark whispered, "Then this is your chance. Take it," his hand reaching forward with hesitant sincerity. Sarah muttered, "Real doesn't last," but her voice carried cracks, fear of being invisible herself. The ghost whispered, "Real is the only thing that survives." I gazed at my reflection in the black screen. For the first time, it didn't frighten me. It didn't lie. It was me, imperfect, scarred, but honest. The crowd was gone. The empire was rubble. But I was here. Not an idol. Not a mask. Just Emily. The silence was no longer punishment, but peace. Emily said, "This is enough." My words didn't need likes or comments, they existed on their own. Mark whispered, "Then live, Emily, as yourself." His tone carried both relief and sorrow, but hope lingered. Sarah muttered, "The world won't forgive you," her tone brittle, but her gaze lowered in doubt. The ghost whispered, "You don't need forgiveness, you only need yourself." I closed my eyes and felt the darkness, not as an ending, but as a beginning. I was no longer drowning. I was floating. I wasn't saved, but I was real, and real was enough. The silence felt like a scream that never ended. Emily said, "I thought forever meant fame, but forever is emptiness echoing in my bones." My voice trembled as though each word peeled away another mask. Mark whispered, "Don't disappear, Emily. You're still here. I still see you." His desperation cracked like glass under pressure, but I couldn't reach for him. Sarah muttered, "She was never real to them," her voice brittle, but her eyes carried a glimmer of envy even now. The ghost whispered, "You've given them everything, and they left you hollow." My reflection flickered in the black screen, fragile, fading like smoke dissolving into air. For the first time, I didn't resist the fading. I let the silence become my only companion, my final stage, my end. The room smelled of dust and burnt-out electronics, the empire reduced to silence. Emily said, "I was never theirs to keep, only to consume." My voice cracked like broken porcelain. Mark whispered, "Then be yours. Even shattered, you're still you." His hands shook, as if holding on to air itself. Sarah muttered, "She doesn't even know who she is," her tone sharp, but her stare betrayed fear. The ghost whispered, "You abandoned me, but I survived in the dark." My chest was empty, but emptiness meant there was nothing left to lose. The crowd's noise was gone. Only shadows remained. For the first time, I didn't flinch at being forgotten. Forgotten was freedom. Forgotten was peace. Emily said, "All I wanted was to be seen, but they only saw the ghost I built." My voice shook like a confession too late. Mark whispered, "I saw you once. I should have fought harder to hold you." His voice shattered with regret that cut deeper than betrayal. Sarah muttered, "The ghost was always brighter than you, her bitterness raw, her envy unmasked." The ghost whispered, "Now they can't look away from me. I am what remains when the mask dies." My hands trembled, the weight of truth finally crushing me. My reflection was no longer mine. It belonged to the lies I fed, the persona I sculpted. I realized I wasn't loved or hated anymore. I was irrelevant. And irrelevance was worse than death. The silence pressed against my ears until it became unbearable. Emily said, "Maybe vanishing is the only truth left." My words echoed through the dark room like a final confession, whispered at a funeral. Mark whispered, "Please don't. The world without you is emptier, darker." His tone carried both hope and despair. Sarah muttered, "She's already gone. The ghost is all that's left," her words resigned but trembling. The ghost whispered, "And finally, I am free. Free from lies, free from you." I looked into the screen one last time. It showed nothing. No face. No mask. Just static buzzing like a death rattle. My chest hollowed completely, air thin and heavy. The empire of numbers ended not with applause, but with absence. The final words tasted like blood and glass. Emily said, "And that's why you'll never see me online again." My voice was quiet but carried finality that no one could undo. Mark whispered, "Don't vanish, Emily," his eyes shimmering with hopeless tears. Sarah muttered, "She was never here to begin with," her tone sharp but weary, like venom running dry. The ghost whispered, "Now you belong only to me. And that is enough." The silence afterward was crushing, heavier than the crowd's screams ever were. The empire was gone. The mask was gone. My name dissolved into the static. I didn't exist in their world anymore. And maybe, for the first time, that was freedom.